Hello friends, my name's Rainey. Welcome back to my channel and get ready for my July and Jane Austen July wrap up. Now this year for Jane Austen July, I had a goal of rereading all of Jane Austen's main 6 novels and Lady Susan. The hosts of Jane Austen July were hosting read-alongs for Pride and Prejudice and Lady Susan at the end of the month. Now, spoiler alert, I did not reach my goal to reread all 6 plus Lady Susan. I ended up rereading 5 of the novels with one still lingering, and I totally spaced on reading Lady Susan. So that's kind of your spoiler for what I did not read in July, but I read a bunch of other things and a few non-Jane Austen related things as well. So let's just get into it so that this is not 10 hours long. The first of Jane Austen's main 6 novels that I read this month was Mansfield Park. And this one I did not have a physical copy of in one of the word cloud editions that I am collecting, but I am going to rectify that shortly. If you don't know the story of Mansfield Park, it follows Fanny Price, who is kind of notoriously looked at by contemporary readers as being kind of boring. She is very introspective, and she is the ward of some very obnoxious and just downright mean family members. And she kind of has some interesting experiences with her cousin Edmund Bertram and some visitors to the house at the Crawfords. And it actually is a slower pace of the Jane Austen novels, so I can see where people would think that this one is boring, but there are definitely high points in it. There is kind of an interesting group of scenes with a play that is involved, the characters putting on a play. There is definitely some intrigue in the romance department, and there are definitely gems within this novel. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I overall ranked this in the scheme of all the Jane Austen novels, because I am hoping to have an updated Jane Austen novel ranking sometime this week. So we'll see if I can get all of these ranking things filmed. But needless to say, I always enjoy every Jane Austen novel. So I enjoyed this one, but you'll have to check back to see where it ranks with my rereads this month. The next of Jane Austen's novels that I reread was Persuasion. And this one follows Anne Elliot, who is an older heroine. She is, I believe at the start of the play, she is 27, maybe 29, but she is approaching that old age of 30, and she is unmarried. I mean, shock horror. But it is talked about early on that she once had a romance with a Captain Wentworth who comes back into her life, and kind of they have to work out their feelings and kind of come to an understanding, as it were. So previously, this has been one of my favorite Jane Austen novel, but I won't tell you if that has changed in my recent rereads. I did, however, also watch the new Persuasion that Netflix had recently. I was not a fan, people. I'm probably, just parroting what everybody else was saying, but I just could not get past the modern terminology thrown in. To me, what seemed randomly, it was just, I don't know, it didn't seem to fit to me. And one of the main things that bothered me is that Anne and Captain Wentworth and a lot of the other characters just always seem to call each other by their first names, which would never, ever happen in Jane Austen's novels or in that society, unless you were married to that person, and even in public, you still would not call the people by their first names. It just was not done, people. So there was just a lot of things that I just did not enjoy. But I'm kind of a purist. I don't mind if you kind of update things to make them more aesthetically pleasing or whatever, but you have to keep the language and just the overall way of the world back then. That's just how it is. Now, I will say I did like the diverse cast. I did enjoy many of the supporting characters, actors in the movie. That was actually a high point for me. That just I thought a lot of the supporting cast was just really well done. But I just did not enjoy the main characters, which is kind of the biggest thing, I would think. So, but oh well. The next book I read was actually not a Jane Austen or even Jane Austen adjacent book. This was Village School by Miss Read. And I read this as part of a read along that I have been doing every month for the last year plus with my friends Kate Howe, Angie from Literary Labors, and Chelsea from Voyage of a Time Wanderer. We had been doing the Mitford series. We finished those, and we have now started the Miss Read series. And I will say that I really enjoyed this first book. By the end of it, at first I was, kind of bored with it, to be honest with you. But I feel like first books, a lot of times, you're trying to get all the characters introduced and kind of get a feel for the town that they all live in. So it was a lot of that. So I'm hoping that future books in the series will be maybe a little bit more plot based than this one was, but I still enjoyed it in the end. There was enough to keep me going. So I am excited to continue the series with my friends and have you join us too, hopefully. In August, we will be reading Village Diary. So if you would like to hop on and join us, we would love it. The next book that I read, and actually I started this on July 1st and was reading along with the group, was Pride and Prejudice. These are the word cloud editions that I am collecting. I have 4 out of the 6. So hopefully I will be able to get those ones in the next little bit. I'm trying not to buy everything at once. But anyway, this is probably my 3rd or 4th reading possibly of Pride and Prejudice. And I just really enjoy this. I mean, I think it definitely lives up to the hype, and the characters are they're hilarious and frustrating. And I think it's probably one of Jane Austen's most well-rounded, maybe. There's a lot going on in this one, and it is probably the most energetic, maybe is the word I'm looking for. It's very energetic, very entertaining. But it has a lot to say about society and even just the class system within the genteel populace of that time. And it's just a really interesting societal study. And if you want more, very much more in-depth and articulate reviews of Pride and Prejudice, you should check out Katie from Books and Things, her channel. She does a lot of in-depth studies of Pride and Prejudice, and she has probably, I think she said she's read this 10 times. So, but of course I really enjoyed this one as well. I enjoyed slow reading it physically this time around. I think the last time I listened to it on audiobook, and I just wanted like a slow reread of this. So I'm glad that I did that. And I also, on a sick day that I took while I was reading this, watched the 6 hour BBC Pride and Prejudice, which is my just favorite of all times. And I can't get anybody to watch 6 hours of a movie with me anymore. So I just did it by myself while I had an excuse to lay on the couch. The next one I read was Northanger Abbey. This one I listened to via audiobook and kind of followed along in the book. This book follows Catherine Morland, and the the hero is Henry Tilney. And Catherine is a very young protagonist, and she's very naive. She loves to read Gothic romance novels, or just Gothic novels, and she lets her imagination get the better of her. This book probably has the most icky villain of all of Jane Austen's novels. And yeah, it's definitely also an entertaining read. I did not rewatch the movie version this year of this, but it is a very entertaining adaptation. I'll try to remember to put the picture up of the one that I own. And yeah, it throws in a lot of like kind of dream sequences of Catherine Morland, and it's which is not in the book, but it's very funny. So, and just gives you some insight into her overactive imagination. So, yeah, again, hopefully I will get out a ranking video that tells you where this stands in my reread ranking. But I definitely thought that this was a very entertaining read. The next book that I finished was not a Jane Austen book, and it was The Thursday Murder Club. And this one I read for Krista from Books and Jam's Patreon group. And it is a cozy mystery or cozy mystery adjacent novel, and it's part of a series, and I forget what the series is called, but this is the first in the series. I had been wanting to read this book for a long time, so when it was picked for Krista's book club, I knew I had to make time to read it. I will say that while I enjoyed this because I thought that the characters were hilarious and also, very heartwarming. It is a group of retirees in England, and they all live in a retirement community, but they're all, pretty spry, and, they're not like, nursing home level. They are, just retirement community, like, hanging out and going golfing kind of thing. But they were very funny. There are younger characters thrown in as part of the whole thing, and but the thing that I found a little bit daunting was there were a lot of characters introduced. I don't know if that will get better or like less characters in the second book. I believe there's only 2 books out right now, and the third one will be released in September. I think one of my fellow readers told us in the meeting, but this one just had a lot of characters and a lot of backstory, and it was a little hard to follow at times, I will say that. So it was nice that I was reading it with people, because otherwise I probably would have been like completely lost at times. But it's definitely one that I feel like I would almost like to reread it and kind of do a character study, like write down all the characters and like the little bits that happen with them, because I just really feel like I would benefit from that. Even though I know the outcome of the story, I feel like I could use a little like refresher to kind of make it clearer in my head. But I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really liked it, and I would really like to read the second book. And some people that have moved on to the second book said they liked it even better than the first one. So that's good to know. And last but not least of the books that I actually finished in July was Emma by Jane Austen. This one is probably one of her longest one. It might be her longest one. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me, but it seems pretty long. And it's definitely the longest of the four that I own. So, but this one follows Emma, and she is a very rich single lady who has no desire to get married, but she would like to marry everybody else off. If you have ever seen the movie Clueless from the early 90s with Cher Silverstone, is that her name? No, that was her name in the movie, Cher. I don't remember what her actual name is. Anyway, that's not important. But if you've ever seen Clueless, it is a modern adaptation of Emma. So Emma is often considered to be one of the least likable of Jane Austen's protagonists. And she is just very meddling and just makes a lot of errors when it comes to her friends and her relatives. And she can be very selfish at times. I find this book extremely funny. And I think that Emma is very heartwarming, or like, I don't know. I like Emma. But I don't want to say too much because again, I'll be ranking my Jane Austen heroines. But I really do like Emma, and I am up for kind of protecting her and defending her. And yeah, this is one of my favorites. But actually, can I really say that any of them are my favorites? Because I like all six of them. So that only leaves Sense and Sensibility that I did not get to this month, and also Lady Susan. I have read Sense and Sensibility, though, multiple times and absolutely love it. So I definitely will feel confident in including Eleanor and Marianne and everybody in my ranking videos. So so that will definitely go into my rankings, even though I didn't reread it this month. And also, I started reading Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomlin. I always forget the last name. And I have not finished it yet. I am, I think, 12 chapters in. I am buddy reading this with my friend Taylor from the Babbling Bee, and she got a little sidetracked this month too. So we are just extending it into August and having our own little Austen August. So I'm going to try, I think, to read about a chapter a day in August until I finish it. And I think there's only like 25 chapters, so I should be able to get my way through it. I really am enjoying this a lot. It is obviously it's a nonfiction, but it kind of encompasses not only Jane Austen, but the surroundings of Jane Austen, different members of her family, her neighbors, different things that they would have gotten up to. There are some really interesting stories about her neighbors and things that, like, people that she hobnobbed with, I guess, and like the things that they got up to in their private lives. So yeah, that's really entertaining. I mean, the overall thing of it is we don't know a ton about Jane Austen because a lot of her letters to her sister were destroyed, and we can't like definitively say a lot about her personal life. So I think this book is doing a really good job of still giving us a good overview of things, and definitely putting some really good, accurate historical information into it, and in a very readable way. And there's tons of pictures and artwork and everything that makes it even easier to get through. So yeah, we just got a little sidetracked with other things. So, but I'm really looking forward to continuing on with this into August. Okay, so there you go, friends. That was everything I read in the month of July, both Jane Austen July and just regular stuff. So I will hopefully be back with you throughout the rest of this week with different ranking videos for the Jane Austen novels and their characters, and also an August TBR, hopefully. We'll see. I'm kind of in the mood this year to more or less mood read, but I do have some actual things that I will be reading in August. Hopefully, among other things that I can mood read. So I will be back, time permitting. Hopefully, I will have time to record every night after work. But all right. Well, I hope you are having a good start to your August, and I will talk to you in my next video, which hopefully will be tomorrow. All right. Bye, friends.